Hey guys, and welcome to a new video for, in this case, Automate April in this event that we hold almost monthly in Pabbly Connect group. My name is Lewis, and today I'm going to show you a different use case from the other automations that I've done in the past. And in this case, it's one that it's really useful to me professionally. I'm an English teacher, or I used to be an English teacher, but I do it part-time nowadays. And one of the services that I offer is correcting writing tasks. Okay, so students send me a writing task, an essay, a report, an article, something like that, and I mark it for them. I give them some feedback, and I send it back to them. Sometimes these students are my students, so I teach them, and other times it's just people that buy this service from me, and they don't want lessons. They just want some feedback on their writing tasks. So what I've created here is a automation that, let's say, it relieves the teacher or consultant of all the manual work in collecting payment, sending out emails, notifications, creating the documents, and so on. Right. So this automation is meant for teachers, consultants, and coaches who provide written work assessment as a service. All right. And as I said, what this does is basically automating payment collection, document creation, and email notifications. Right. So let's dive into this and let's go over the tools we need for this automation. We need a payment form. In this case, I'm going to use Pabbly Subscription Billing. Then we need a sort of spreadsheet or database. I'm going to be using Google Sheets because it's really convenient. We need a text document, or in general, we need Google Drive with Google Sheets and Google Docs. And then we need an email account to send out the notifications. And in this case, I'm going to be using Pabbly Connect, obviously, to integrate all of these tools together and create the flow for this automation. All right, so this is what's going to be happening. It's not a very long automation, but it's, or at least I found it a bit complex to set up. I hit a few snags at the beginning, but I think I solved them, basically. So what this is going to do is we're going to start with a payment form, okay, to collect the customer data and the payment. And this is going to do two things. We're going to store the customer details in a database, in Google Sheets in this case, and we're going to store the invoice number, the name and surname, the email address, the status of this order, and then this text document link. And this is the other thing that's going to happen there, and that's I don't know why that's disappeared there. We're going to create, at the same time, we're going to create a text document which is going to be the result of duplicating, a template that I've already created. And when creating that document, we're going to name it so it has a unique name and cannot be confused with a different one or duplicated in this case. Then, when this is created, okay, we've stored the customer details, we created the document, and we're going to send an email to the customer. And in this email, we're going to tell them, we're going to thank them for purchasing this service, and we're going to send them the text document link, right? This document link. And then two things can happen. And actually, I'm just going to move this here, right? So it's easier to understand what's happening. Once we've done this, we're going to have two possible outcomes. The first one is that the customer does or hands in the writing assessment, and they send us an email and say, hey, this is there. So I'm going to mark it as complete in this spreadsheet, okay? And this is going to send out a notification notifying the customer that the writing task has been assessed. Okay, and it's going to include, again, the link. Or the other outcome is that the customer forgets to, this customer is usually a student, so they tend to forget to do their work, even though they might have paid for it. And if 1 week goes by and we don't receive this written task from the student, it's going to send an automatic reminder to the customer, reminding them to do the task if they're really interested, right? So I'm going to show you exactly what this does. Okay, I have the tracking database, okay, where we're going to store the customer details. I have the written template with the task included here, and I have the payment form. All right, and I've also got my my email account open. All right, just so we can get the email notifications. And then I have here the two automations, so the two flows that we're going to need. One, I've called it a writing assessment service inbound. So this is when the customer provides us with payment and details, and we start this this whole process. And the other one is the outbound, and it's basically when I've marked or assessed this written task, and when I mark it complete, this flow is responsible for notifying the customer or the student. So let me just start with this. Okay, so I'm going to enter some dummy email details here, my details, but from a different account. All right. And I'm going to choose a level. I'm going to choose C1 and accept. Sorry, I just moved that there. I'm going to accept, continue. This is I'm using a test payment gateway, so no real money goes through. Okay, so I'm paying now, and what is expected now is that we, on the one hand, we should have the details here. So you see we have the transaction ID, the student, the level, the email, and the status pending. Okay, this is the default status. And then we have a copy of this template. Okay, remember we had this template here. We have a copy, but it's exactly the same, but the name has changed. So it contains the student's details, name, level, and in order to make it unique, because maybe the same student can purchase different tasks or whatever, in order to make it unique, I've included here the invoice number that Pabbly Subscription Billing assigns to this transaction, right? And then the other thing that should have happened is that we have received, first of all, well, this is a payment notification from Pabbly Subscription Billing, but this is not part of this automation. And then, as the customer, I have received this email. Hi, Lewis. Thank you very much for purchasing this writing assessment service. Here's your writing document where you can do the task assigned to you. And this opens up the very same document we've mentioned before. Once you have completed the task inside the document, or if you have any questions, simply reply to this email to let me know. Hope to hear from you soon. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so now imagine that I've marked this. Okay, this is completed. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into the sheet and I'm going to mark this as completed. Okay, now what this is going to do is going to trigger another step from a different automation from this flow, the outbound flow, and is going to notify the customer that the writing has been marked. So I've received that email there. It says, hey there, I have just marked your writing. Sorry for that typo. You can read my feedback and corrections in the following link. And that takes them to their very same document where I will have written all the feedback. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to reply to this email. Regards. Okay, so this is a very simple process, but the automation is not that straightforward, and there's something else that we should go over. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is go over the inbound process. Okay, the first thing that we do is collect the data, and I'm just going to collapse everything here so you can see all the steps. The first step is receiving the payment and the customer details with Pabbly Connect. Then we send those details to Google Sheets here. All right. And then we get this file from here. We get this file and we copy it. Okay, we duplicate it. There we go. And we take the duplicated link, the duplicated file URL, and we put it using these two steps, the lookup spreadsheet rows and update cell value. And that's how we achieve this link there. Okay, I'll just carry on, and then I'll walk you through every step. And then what we need to do is, because, okay, this has created the file, this has stored the file URL in the sheet, but this file is still private. Okay, so what I need to do in order to send it to the to the student, what I need to do is to share that file. In this case, share it with anyone, because maybe the student doesn't have a Gmail account or whatever. So I make it public for anyone with the link, but in this case, it'll be only them and me with the link. And I send an email notification. Okay, so let's just open every different step. So here, for the first step, the trigger of all the workflow is I've chosen Pabbly Subscription Billing. The trigger would be the successful payment. And this webhook URL is what I've, let's see, what I've put into Pabbly payment or Pabbly subscriptions. So basically, this will be similar with Paperform or with any other form builder. Basically, you create a webhook, or you get this webhook URL and you input it in the service that's sending the data. Okay. In this case, I've mapped it to this particular product or this particular plan. Okay. And one thing about, if you're going to use Pabbly Subscription Billing, I recommend that you only select one trigger. Okay. One of these things, because otherwise it sends a lot of details, a lot of data, and it can get a bit confusing. And sometimes the workflow will fail because I don't know if it's a Pabbly Subscription Billing problem or a Pabbly Connect problem, but it doesn't always send out the same things. Okay, the same information. So once we've set up the first step, okay, we capture the response and we get all of this. Okay, the payment success. We get different details there. We get the customer email as well, customer name. This is different from the one I've just used now, because this is from when I was testing before recording the video. Anyway, so what we have to do with all of that is use it in the next steps to map all the different fields that we need. Okay, so the next step is adding a new row to this spreadsheet. Okay, so we choose Google Sheets. The action event, we choose add new row. And here we select the spreadsheet, which is students tracking. Okay, this spreadsheet here, and the tab of the spreadsheet. In this case, I've just named it the same, and that's why you see the same name here. And then what this does basically is get all the different columns. Okay, the invoice ID, the student, blah blah blah, from here. Okay. I've updated this, but not updated it in Pabbly Connect, but it's the same column. I've just changed the heading. Okay, so we have the invoice ID, the student level, email, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and we get all these details from here, right? So if I had to do that again, I would just, you would just do it like this. Okay, let me just go ahead and delete that. So I think that was the data reference ID. Okay, this is actually the invoice number that Pabbly Subscription Billing conveys through the webhook. So I'll just choose that and map the other things like the name, the value. In this case, I created a custom field in Pabbly Payments. Okay, I created a custom field to choose the level that the student wants me, the level of the writing that the student wants me to correct. Okay, in this case, when I was testing, I chose level B2. the email as well, and then the status. This is the only non-dynamic or the only static value that we're conveying at the moment, okay? Pending. So that will always, when a customer pays, the value of the status will always be pending, okay? In document, so far we don't have a document, so we're not going to map anything there, okay? Then we move on to copying the file. And what we do with this step is we copy this template and we name it. So we choose Google Drive, the action event, copy a file. And this is the file that I want copied. And where do I want it copied? Okay, that would be the folder. And so I created a different folder there called Students Works. And sorry, somebody interrupted me, interrupted the video, but never mind. What I was saying is that inside this folder, I created Student Works, where I'm going to store all of the different student files that are created through this automation. So once I've copied that file, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get that file link and store it here, okay, in this column next to, on the same row, obviously, as the student details. How do we do that? Well, first thing we have to do is to look up the spreadsheet rows. Obviously, here I didn't have any details yet, but it's important that when this automation is running, if there are more than one student rows, okay, that we assign the correct the link to the document to the correct transaction and student. Okay, so that's why we need to perform this lookup spreadsheet rows. So we choose again Google Sheets, the lookup spreadsheet rows. Again, the same spreadsheet, the same sheet or tab. And now we need to look up column A in this case, okay, because the only unique value here, because will always be the transaction ID. Why? Because this student can buy this package or this service more than once, and they can input the same details, okay? So those values are not unique, and we don't want to overwrite the URL of the document. So as this transaction ID will always be unique to that particular transaction, okay, we're going to look up that value in order to get all the other values. So what we do there is we look up column A and we ask it to look for that invoice ID value in particular. Okay, this is a dynamic value that we obtain from the very first step. Okay, from let's see, let me just look for that real quick. From there, okay, from the data reference ID conveyed by Pabbly Subscription. And if we carry on, we don't have to touch anything there. We just save and move on to the next step, which is to update the cell value. Which cell in this case? Well, obviously the one of the document. And how do we do that? Again, we choose Google Sheets. We choose a different action, in this case, update cell value. We choose the same spreadsheet and the same sheet inside. And then we have to input the range. Now, in this range, we have two different parts. Okay, the first part is static because, and here we input column F because it will always be F because the document URLs are in the column F in this sheet. And then we have to get the row index. Okay, so this value is in the let me just show you, is in row index 2, in the second row basically. So we get that value there, and to create the URL, if you notice, these documents always follow the same pattern. Okay, they always start with document blah 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 /d/ and then they end with edit. And here they have the document ID. Okay, and this is unique to every document. Okay, if you take a look at this one, it also has the beginning the same, but then it has the unique document ID value. And that's what we need to input here. So we start with the same pattern there, okay? And then we map between this and edit, we map it like this, okay? We just put the cursor there, and we go to the copy a file step that we had, and we get the ID from there, right? We save it, and then we have to share that document with well, we have to make it shareable, okay, or accessible to anyone with the link. So in order to do that, we choose a different app, in this case, Google Drive, and we choose the action event, share a file with anyone. And this is a very easy step once you have the file ID, because you simply need to map it with the file ID, the same one that we used in the previous step, okay, with that one there. And finally, once we have the customer details and the file for our customer, we simply need to send them an email notification, okay? So in this case, I'm using Gmail, the action event send email, and in the recipient, we map it with the customer email address that they input in the payment form. I've decided not to add any copied recipients there. The sender name, I've introduced my sender name, email subject, a reply to. I've input this one, but really it's not necessary because I'm already using and I just want them to reply to the same email address that I've connected here. And finally, I chose the email content type HTML, simply to make sure that the formatting is all right. So I just added some paragraphs there, and basically that's it. So as you can see, I've added two dynamic values here. One of them is the customer name, okay, to address them by their name, and then again the URL of the document. Okay, so basically this is just repeating what we've achieved here. Okay, that it would be that value there, but it's simply repeating this. And if you take a look, that's exactly the email that I received earlier on when I was testing it here. Okay, hi Lewis, thank you very much for purchasing this writing assessment service. And there we are. All right. And that's it. Okay, that's the inbound process. So the customer buys the service, and I receive their details and send them an email with this document where they can write or do their writing task. Okay. I mean, with this inbound flow, we've already saved ourselves a lot of trouble, okay? We've saved ourselves collecting the payment manually, okay? We don't have to send any PayPal links, any bank account details or anything. We can just place the link to this checkout page. I'll just show you the checkout again. We simply place the link in somewhere on our website, and let me just go ahead and show you that. Okay. So we just place this link anywhere on our website, any button, product, or whatever we have. And we've automated the payment collection, the payment notification, and the notification of the document where they will carry out the writing task. Okay. Now, the rest of the process is what I called earlier on the I'll show you again on here, okay? The outbound, okay? The outbound process. And it's basically, it has two possible outcomes, okay? And we'll just see how to do that in a minute. So the one outcome is that the customer sends us the writing task. Okay, we can't automate that, obviously. So once I've assessed it, I notify the customer that it's assessed and that they can check their feedback. Or if the other outcome is happens when the customer forgets to do the task, and we send them a reminder. Okay, so I'll just show you again how to take care of that. And I call this this process the outbound flow. So this is a simple flow. we have two steps, but one of them is a router. So basically that contains another two possible outcomes: the notification of assessment complete, and the one from assessment pending. Okay, this means that they didn't send us that. So how does this work? The trigger here is done in Google Sheets. Okay, so in order to do this, we need to set up a Google Sheets extension, Pabbly's Google Sheet extension, okay, which is easy. You just go into extensions, complements, download complements, and you look for Pabbly Connect. Let's see, Pabbly Connect webhooks, and you install that. Then once you have that extension, you can click on Initial Setup. And in the initial setup, you will be able to input the URL, the webhook URL that you get here. Okay, so you copy this, you paste it in there, and you select a trigger column. Okay, in this case, because we're going to be, the trigger is column E, I've selected column E, and that's, this used to be pending, and I changed it to completed, and that triggered the second flow. So once we have that set up, there's two possible outcomes, as I said before. The one where the student sends us the notification, the writing assessment, and we assess it before a week goes by. And the other one, a week goes by and the student hasn't sent us anything. So we send them a reminder. Okay, so this is what the router does. The router does, basically, to divide the flow into 2, 3, 4, however many possible outcomes you have here. Okay, so here we set a filter, and in the filter for the reminder, we set it to the following settings. So we select inside here, okay, inside the information, if the status is pending. We select the status, and if the status equals to pending, okay, and you input this here manually, we continue with this part of the router. All right, and what do we do now? If it's pending, we wait for a week, okay, and then so here I added a delay, very easy and very handy internal process here. And we delay for weeks, and the value is 1 week, right? And we save that and move on to the next step, and that is to check again after 1 week if the status of the task here, okay, has changed. So what I do now is I filter again, and if the value is still pending, okay, I send an email notification. All right. I need to look into this part of the flow, because maybe I need to look up the value row again before the filter. Okay. Maybe I'm missing that step. I'm realizing this now, because the reminder is something I have not been able to test, because it would take 1 week with the current setting. And then I would send out an email saying, hey there, this is just a quick reminder that after 1 week, blah, 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 blah. Okay, and let's just see how that one looks. Let's see, did it go through? Yes. So that's a task reminder, okay? This is just a quick reminder that after 1 week, your writing task has still not been completed, blah, blah, blah. Okay, here's the link to the task, okay? But as I said, I would need to look into this to check whether I need to look up the row again here to see whether this status has changed. I'm not completely sure about that at the moment, but never mind. Maybe this is a completely optional step. And actually, if you get paid for not working, it's better than having to remind the student that they need to do their job, because then you would have to work more. Anyway, so moving on to the next, okay? If the student has completed this and you've corrected it, you mark it here as completed, all right? And then what we do is this, okay? We filter the status to only continue with this step if the status is equals to completed, okay? Now, this value is completed, and that's important because you need to input here exactly the same word, okay, completed. So it triggers, it's going to trigger it anyway, but only if you wanted to continue, it needs to be exactly completed. Okay, so it goes through here. Then what we do is we look up, I think in the reminder we need this step. We're missing this step as well. Okay, so anyway, we look up the spreadsheet, column A, again, the same as we did in the inbound process. Okay, we check the transaction ID, and we check the transaction ID, and we receive all the values for that row. And this is what we need now, simply to send the customer, this and the email, actually, to send the customer the notification. So the next step is send them the email notification. So we map that here. We don't have all the details from the Pabbly subscription billing checkout form. So we need to map it with the row information, okay? With the information from the spreadsheet that we just looked up in the previous step, okay? So here we have the recipient email address, the same things, okay? Choose a different email subject. That makes sense. And here's the email content, okay? I have just marked your writing task. I'll just correct this now. And you can read my feedback and corrections in the following link. Okay, this link we have obtained from there. Okay, from looking up the spreadsheet row. Okay, sorry, from here, from looking up the spreadsheet row. Then we have that document there. Okay. And that's it. That's exactly the email that I received earlier when the writing had been marked. Okay, hey there, have just and that's it. All right. I'm just going to save that because I corrected the typo. So, as I said earlier, in the pending reminder, okay, we're missing a step, and I think we're just going to do it now. So basically, we're filtering this to only continue if pending. So basically, this is going to continue all the time. Every time you do, you receive something. Okay, you receive an order. This is going to be pending. Okay, the default value there is going to be pending. So this is going to trigger to continue with this action. Okay, so we're going to run this delay for 1 week, and then what we need to do is to look up again. Okay, Google Sheets. We need to look up the value of the row to check if the real value is pending or complete. All right. So let's just do that live now while recording the video. So here we choose the sheet tracking. We need to look up this column. Let's check again. Okay, so we need to look up column E. We need to look up column A as we did before. Okay, and we need to look for the invoice ID, the transaction ID. Okay, sorry, that doesn't go there. There we go. Okay, we need to look for the transaction ID in order to get all the values from there. So we save, send test, and data not found. Why is this? Yeah, well, this is because it's previous thing. Okay, I'm just gonna trigger this again. Save this. Success. Yeah, because it's been delayed for 1 week. Let's try this one again. Data not found. Why is that? Okay. Okay, let's just update this. I'm just gonna send that again, okay? Because I need those were old. That was old data, so it's not recapturing. I'm just gonna recapture all the details there. So if you need to do this, you just go into the extension within the spreadsheet, and you can send all data, or you can choose initial setup, and you can send test. Okay, so the data sent successfully with the new data. Okay, so there we are. Okay, and now that we have that, we're gonna carry on with the workflow that we were setting up, and it was the reminding part. Okay, as you see that means that there's no value somewhere, no document. Okay, because it's a different one. So only continue if equal pending. This is not going to work now because the condition is false. Shit. Okay, I'll just update this to pending and resend all the recapture the webhook. And let's try that again. Initial setup and send test. Good. Now, again, we receive the response here. And let's go back into reminder. Sorry about this hassle, okay, but I just realized that I was missing a step here. So only continue if pending. Okay, condition is true. That's good. So we delay this for 1 week. Success. It's delayed for 1 week. Now we're going to look up that, and we're going to map this to the transaction ID that we have now. All right. Save and test request. All right. So now we've with that, okay, what we've done is looked up this transaction ID and got all the details here in every different column. So what we need now from here is to filter. Okay, only continue if value is pending. Okay, if so, basically after 1 week the value is still pending, we will send out the reminder. Okay, so the condition is true here, and we save that, and now we send the notification. Okay, and I'm gonna show you how to map that into how to map the document now, the document URL. So we don't have any data here because we've changed the data, and what we're going to do is from the last step, okay, from the last step where we were looking up the row, we're going to get the document URL and we're going to stick it there. Okay, and we're going to save and test a request, and we should receive an email if everything was fine. Everything seems to be fine. We should receive an email with a reminder. All right, and that's it. Okay, that takes us exactly to the document that corresponds to that student. Okay, and finally, we're just going to do another test, just so you. So we can check that everything works fine, and I don't lose all the credibility or the little credibility that I have. So we're just gonna choose a different one. Let's see, Luis. I'm gonna go with the other email I was using before. Sorry, Luis speaking FCE.com. Level B2. Now let's choose level B1 just to make it different. Continue, success, and pay now. Okay, thank you, page. Okay, so we have the detail there, and you just saw how that appeared there, and that's a new file that's included in this folder. And that's the one. Okay, so you see that it's completely unique. Well, apart from the level and name, because this would be different students, because it has the invoice number there. So now the student has received this email. Okay, your writing assessment task, thank you. Just checking that that takes us to the same file that we just created. Just gonna close that and that as well, and that too, so I don't mess up. And once I've corrected that, okay, once I've corrected that document, okay, I have the student's text here and my feedback. Something's happening to that image there, hasn't been copied over. It has, yeah. And my feedback, once I've provided them with feedback, I just come in here and mark it as completed. Okay, that triggers the other part of the outbound, and the student should receive another notification, hopefully at some point. There we go. Writing marked. Okay, it's marked, and that takes us again checking to the file. Right, so as you can see, we've completed with a bit of difficulty and a slight mistake there. I missed one step. We've completed this workflow and automated everything except for the student sending us a writing task, which we can't automate, unfortunately, and we've obviously the assessment that we're giving to them, we can't automate that so far. So but that would be the only manual work in all this service that we're providing. Okay, it's taken me around, I'd say around an hour and a half, 2 hours to set the whole thing up. I'm not very techie, but once you get into this, you start testing, you start seeing the kind of mistakes you're making, like jumping a step there. Once you get into this and you practice a bit with a few automations, you can do it. And seriously, I'm not techie at all, and this automation is quite simple, but it's very useful if you're a trainer, as I said before, teacher, consultant who offers a paid writing service assessment, right? So if you have any questions, please just leave a comment, and I will get back to you as soon as possible if I can help you in any way. Right? Bye-bye then.